Hi, everyone. Feel free to start asking questions about EB-1A profile building, and I can also share a bit about some of the topics I've been coming across. So, one topic that seems to come up all the time has to do with peer reviewing. A lot of people want to learn about how to get involved in peer reviewing, and for the most part, it just comes down to the kinds of people you reach out to, the kinds of people you start conversations with. And usually I suggest that you look at reaching out to conference committee chairs, especially conferences that have an industry track. So lately I've been noticing that a lot of conferences have been offering industry tracks. They've been more open to submissions from industry professionals. And that is probably why they're introducing industry tracks. So for these kinds of conferences that have industry tracks, you will see that a lot of them have program committees for their industry tracks. And you'll see a bunch of industry professionals who are on these committees. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to email or message or both, and as in message on LinkedIn, you'll want to email and message them to see if you can get involved in peer reviewing. And how you want to approach that is you want to reach out, share the expertise you have, talk about the expertise you have, and then show how your expertise is relevant to the conference, especially to the kinds of topics that the conference is looking to cover within its industry track. So you'll want to make sure that your expertise aligns with what the conference needs from industry professionals who are interested in submitting a paper or a workshop presentation. And then you'll want to make sure that the people you're reaching out to are aware that your expertise aligns with their needs. So it's just going to come down to reaching out to lots of these program chairs, and you can also expand your outreach to people who are not involved in the industry track review process, but could potentially introduce you to those committee chairs. And it's probably going to take, like 20, 30 messages a day. I think that's what you should be targeting if you really want to make significant progress when it comes to outreach. You need to be hitting these kinds of numbers in order to have outreach actually be effective for you. It's just going to come down to 20, 30, 50 messages even if you really want to make faster progress on getting peer review opportunities for judging. So that's just something to keep in mind. And another thing that has come up a lot is a lot of people want to learn about how to find speaking opportunities. And a lot of people, I see a divide here. Some people just land so many speaking opportunities that they just can't take on any more speaking opportunities. I have come across a lot of these people. A lot of these people in my private group too. And one person actually came to me and said that he was getting so many speaking opportunities that he just couldn't handle them. And then you see a bunch of people who haven't even gotten one speaking opportunity and want to learn about how to get their first speaking opportunity. And again, it's just going to come down to outreach. And I say this because I have seen people do this quite effectively, and just through outreach alone have been able to meet so many people in their field that they are now automatically considered even for upcoming speaking opportunities, simply because of the number of people they've met and the kinds of people they've been meeting. So if you want to land more speaking opportunities, again, it's just going to come down to doing a lot of outreach, and it's not going to be as obvious who to reach out to, but something to still look into, which is quite similar to conference speaking, as in research conference speaking, is to target the committees and organizers of industry conferences. you can reach out to them, start a conversation, and again, show how your expertise aligns with the needs of the conference. That is, again, something you can do, and the benefits you could potentially get from getting these speaking opportunities is not only the evidence you could potentially present that shows that you have a level of expertise that indicates that you're risen to the top of your field, especially if you're speaking in front of the very top professionals in your field. You could also start to land independent references through speaking opportunities. You could meet people who you end up just staying in touch with, who have never worked with you, but are industry leaders. Again, this is completely based on someone I came across in my private group who was able to land independent references simply by speaking at multiple top conferences. A lot of these industry leaders actually followed up with him afterwards, and he was able to keep in touch with them and eventually land independent references through them. So that's just two things that seem to be coming up a lot. Come up all the time, and people just keep asking, like, how do I land peer review opportunities? How do I land speaking opportunities? It's just going to come down to the kinds of people you start meeting at, say, local chapter events. It could also be people you meet at, people you meet through outreach. You can just reach out to people online. So, just a lot of outreach, a lot of starting conversations. That is what it takes to land speaking and peer review opportunities. And feel free to start asking questions if anyone has any. So in the meantime, I can also go through some of the newsletter resources that I have as part of my paid newsletter, which is $12 per month. One resource that I have been continually updating is my profile building opportunities database. This is a database of opportunities that are relevant to people in multiple fields. I've been trying to share opportunities for fields outside of tech as well, but mostly tech. So AI, data science, you'll see down here, AI, data science, data analytics, software engineering, cloud computing, product management, just these fields in general, I've been sharing opportunities for. And these are just opportunities categorized by the relevant criterion or criteria. And I have been hearing from a lot of newsletter readers that they've been able to actually land some of these opportunities. They've been able to speak at some of these conferences. They've been able to publish in some of these research conferences and publications as well. So this is my profile building opportunities database, which I continually update. Something I also share as part of my newsletter resources, and I occasionally do this, is I review AAO decisions. These are appeals decisions that go into USCIS's reasoning for initially denying an EB-1A petition. And they go into how USCIS thinks about EB-1A, and they also cover EB-200W and O1 as well. And from them, I share profile building insights. I'm also sharing a lot of video resources. That is something that I've been doing within my newsletter. And this is, again, just part of my newsletter resources. These are just conversations, recorded conversations with EB-1A recipients. And I ask the questions that a lot of you ask me, like how to put together strong reference letters, how to claim leading a critical role, how to claim original contributions. So those are just some of the resources that I'm currently sharing. There's also a private group, and as well as a group chat within my newsletter, where people have been able to find co-authors and collaborators. Just quite a few opportunities are coming up in that group chat because I've been seeing professional organization leaders join the group as well, and they're sharing opportunities actively. So just to give you a sense of some of the organizations that people have joined and are leaders in. So I've seen people from Informs, for example, who are on committees and are actively sharing opportunities within the group chat. And a lot of people have told me that they've been able to find co-authors. A couple of people actually got published in IEEE conferences with the collaborators they found within the group chat. And something I'm also starting to schedule more of is workshops. So these are just, so there's one coming up next week. It is going to be an insight session with someone in the group who got approved for both EB-1A and O1. So that will be an insight session scheduled for next Wednesday at, I believe, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll also be hosting a session with an IET fellow because a lot of people have been asking me about the IET fellowship. And I'm also speaking to a BCS fellow next week to see if there might be insights to share about the BCS fellowship based on my conversation there. And yeah, I'll be scheduling more of these workshops within my paid newsletter in the coming weeks, especially with people who've been able to build strong EB-1A profiles. But yeah, that's just my newsletter resources. So Naga asks, what memberships are considered by USCIS in recent days? I heard that senior IEEE is not considered in recent days. Is that true? Yes, senior membership is not considered as strong evidence for the membership criterion. What is considered? Well, there are many different forms of membership you can claim. You just need to show that the membership requires outstanding achievements of its members, and that is something you're going to have to define as part of your argument. There is no specific definition for outstanding achievements. But the forms of membership that tend to work better than IEEE senior membership are committee positions, industry advisory boards in general. Some of these are like university advisory boards. I've also seen people claim certain fellowships as strong evidence for the membership criterion. A lot of people like to claim BCS and IET if you can get those fellowships, but they are difficult to get in general, especially IET. So it's not like they're just readily accessible, but they are strong evidence for membership. I think for tech, the more common ones that I've been seeing are, the most common examples I've been seeing are IEEE committee positions, journal editorial board positions, IET fellowship, BCS fellowship. Those are the kinds of memberships that I've been seeing as part of the membership criterion. Rav asks how membership in Forbes Tech Council can help. Just based on what I've heard, it's not the strongest type of membership that you can claim. It's because it's become very common, and I think the bylaws have something to do with it, but it could help if you can argue that outstanding achievements are required for members of the Forbes Tech Council. It's just that given how many people are a part of the Tech Council, this is just based on what I've heard, that could be difficult to claim. That being said, you can still land other types of opportunities through this membership. It doesn't have to necessarily meet the membership criterion. You don't even need to claim the membership criterion. It's not like you have to claim the membership criterion. It helps if you have compelling memberships, but if you don't try to force the membership criterion. You can try to claim judging and authorship, which tend to be the more straightforward criteria than membership. And just claim membership if you actually have strong membership evidence. Otherwise, don't try to claim it, especially with just senior membership within IEEE. Not saying that senior membership is not useful. It is useful for IEEE, especially in getting leadership positions and getting more opportunities in general. I'm just saying that it's not compelling evidence for the membership criterion. Phage, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Phage asks, can we apply for EB-1A without publications? Yes. If you don't plan to claim the authorship criterion, you do not have to publish. That being said, if you are open to publishing, authorship is one of the criterion you will want to target because authorship tends to work on a plain language level. It's usually interpreted on a plain language level, as in the officer tends not to add their own interpretation to the criterion. There's far less subjectivity with authorship, so it is one of the more straightforward criterion. It's, however, if you don't want to publish anything, you don't like to publish articles, you don't like to publish journal articles, you don't like to publish in conferences, then perhaps authorship is not something you want to look into. But yes, you can apply for EB-1A without authorship. Some people do that. They apply with judging, high salary, leading a critical role. Sometimes they add on membership as a fourth, but sometimes they just leave it at a third for judging. How many journals or how many memberships do we need to have to fulfill the criteria? This is a question that comes up all the time. There is no set number. It depends on the strength of your argument or the strength of the argument you want to present for a certain criterion. If you have a very compelling membership, let's say, I don't know, you're part of some advisory board within your field that has transformed the field, that membership on its own could already help you meet the membership criterion. And it will just come down to whether you think that membership is strong enough, or are you comfortable with claiming that criterion simply on the basis of that one piece of evidence. And if it is actually a strong membership, if you have actually transformed your field with that advisory board position, going with the example I just mentioned, then by all means go for it. It's not like you need to tack on more memberships. That could be a strong argument on its own. Same with journals. If you have one journal article that is in a very influential journal that has gotten a lot of traction from people in your field and is respected by people in your field, and you can show evidence for all of that, then one journal article could actually be enough. It just comes down to, are you comfortable with claiming authorship on the basis of one journal? Because what you will have to then keep in mind is that if the officer does not agree that that one piece of evidence qualifies as authorship, then you don't get the criterion at all. So probably 2 to 3 examples is what I would go for, assuming you have the time to go for, say, 2 to 3 memberships. But I would still prioritize quality over quantity. I would much rather have one high quality membership than 2 to 3 just decent quality memberships. Again, it depends on like how everything fits into your overall argument as well. And yeah, there's no specific number. 2 to 3 if possible. But if you're comfortable with one, just use one membership or one journal article. Does USCS accept patents from other countries? Yes, but you will have to think about how those patents fit into your overall profile. If they're just patents that you just randomly filed, that are not in use, that have not gotten any traction, that have not gotten any significant attention, then they're probably not going to be useful for your profile. But if, say, you filed some patents because you used to work in another country and then now those patents are being used by companies in other countries, and that's how it relates to your work right now in the US, or maybe you don't work in the US, you work outside of the US, then yeah, by all means, those could actually be useful for your profile and they would probably get accepted. Sharif asks, how many judging gig is the minimum required? There is no minimum. You can have one judging opportunity and still be able to meet the judge role criterion. It just comes down to what comfort level you have with just presenting one judge role opportunity, because as I said, if you get denied on this one single example of judging, you have nothing to fall back on. So then, is that something you're okay with? Like if you've won like the most prestigious fellowship, if you have the most prestigious fellowship in your field, then I would say it's not really required to have more memberships. So it just depends on like what kind of evidence you have for judging and whether you're comfortable with presenting it as the only example of judging, knowing full well that you could get, it could just be rejected by an officer for like no reason. Like you just don't know. In which case you have nothing to fall back on. So at least one, probably 2 to 3, but probably not 20. But it depends on the kind of profile you're presenting. Like for a researcher, if peer reviewing is like absolutely fundamental to your field, then having 20 peer review opportunities is probably normal. It also depends on the kind of case you're trying to present. But if you're an industry professional, judging 50 hackathons is probably not going to be that useful for your profile. After the second or third one, it's probably not necessary to just keep presenting examples of judging, especially if they're not very high quality opportunities. Anyone else have questions? Any other questions? Yeah, this number of opportunities question just comes up a lot. I just don't think it's that relevant in general, because it's more about the strength of your argument. Like, how strong of an argument do you want to present? And does that argument require you have multiple opportunities? Like, how many opportunities do you need to present a strong argument? Not really how many. What kinds of opportunities do you need? Like, would you turn down a high quality opportunity? I don't think that would make sense, simply because you felt like you already have enough judging opportunities, unless you're really getting totally overwhelmed with high quality opportunities. A premier member of your group. There's a lot of information being shared by you and group members. Thank you for giving the valuable information. Yeah, you're welcome, Naga. And again, feel free to message me with questions, and this goes for all of you. And if you need introductions to certain people, I'm open to doing that as well. There are a lot of people in that group, so I just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable navigating the group. And if you need certain introductions, there's like some sort of spreadsheet within the newsletter resources that I need to update. It's meant to be a list of people within the group, but I don't think everyone has introduced themselves within the spreadsheet. But I'm planning on updating that spreadsheet soon, getting people to list out who they are so that everyone can just have like one single spreadsheet to refer to for the people in the group. So you can find like co-authors, membership opportunities. But yeah. Now, what's been happening in the group is that a lot of people have just been working with each other, and a lot of them are just doing a lot of work. They're doing a lot. They're trying to get published in journals. They're trying to get published in technical publications, and they're actively working with people in the group, finding co-authors and putting together drafts and sharing a lot of information and actually getting published. Paige asks, what figure qualifies for high earner criteria? Depends on your state. Usually it is the 90th percentile base salary. That is one way to argue high salary. There are other ways to argue high salary. You can include total compensation potentially, but that vastly increases the range. So some people just rely on base salary to make this argument. 90th percentile, you can look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you can look for your particular state and occupation. That is one way to argue high salary. Oh yeah, one other thing is you can also argue high salary on the basis of a job offer. You don't have to argue on the basis of a salary you currently earn. It's just something to keep in mind. Anyone else have questions? Right. No other questions? I have a couple more minutes. But yeah, it just comes down to doing a lot of outreach. That's the one unifying thread I've seen for pretty much all strong profile builders, including ones I work with. All of them just have a really strong inclination towards reaching out to people. I mean, I'm sure there are other ways to build a strong profile, but this is the way that I have seen help people land opportunities that weren't even publicly advertised in the first place. Like, I've seen profile builders just reach out to conference organizers, even though there was no call for speakers, and end up actually getting to speak. So that is just one example that highlights the importance of outreach. Anyone else have questions in the last couple of minutes? All right, if there are no other questions, thanks everyone for joining today's live stream.